Thinking spring on this Tuesday evening edition of Weather for Weather Geeks. What a spectacular day we had today, and the hits will keep on coming for the rest of the work week. Some changes, though, as we head into the upcoming weekend, that is for sure. And wanted to reiterate this evening that spring's northward progress is actually a little bit behind schedule. Now, of course, we had a beautiful day locally today, but in the grand scheme of things, it was a pretty cold winter, at least colder than some of our recent winters, and so the leaf out is behind schedule in places like Kentucky and Tennessee, North Carolina, and Virginia as well. But nonetheless, spring will continue its march northward. This is one thing we look at to kind of measure the progress of spring. Another thing I like to look at is the hummingbird migration. Now, we're still several weeks away from hummingbirds being pretty common across eastern Ohio and western PA, but hummingbirds have now been seen not only across the immediate Gulf Coast, but a little bit inland in parts of Texas, Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama, and Georgia as well. And that progress will, of course, continue as we head deeper into March and April. Now, unofficially today, we did touch 70 in some communities, especially down towards the Ohio River, closer to East Liverpool, but officially at the airport, we made it into the mid-60s today. We are expecting 70 or better, though, Friday and into Saturday. That's pretty much right on schedule for our first 70-degree reading of the season. The 30-year average is March 16th. Now, last year, we had our first 70-degree day on March the 4th, but we waited until April the 4th, a couple of years ago, back in 2023. Another thing I like to talk about, of course, at this time of the year is the gain in daylight. And, you know, at our latitude, we gain about 65-ish minutes worth of daylight from February 1st to February 28th. But during the month of March, this is the month in which we gain the most daylight out of any other month of the year. We gain a good 84, 85 minutes or so worth of daylight at our latitude in the month of March. As we go deeper into the spring, of course, the days get longer, but the rate in which we gain daylight is not quite as high. So we gain about 73-ish minutes of daylight in April, and about 45 minutes, I should say, worth of daylight in the month of May. And then, of course, as we go towards the solstice in June, the opposite starts to transpire once we get past June 21st and we start losing daylight slowly at first and then more rapidly, of course, as we head deeper into the summer season. Now, back here in the here and now, we have a cold front still slicing through the area. We've seen a pretty steep temperature drop as expected over the last few hours. We had a gradient a couple of hours ago that ranged from 50 to 70 from north to south across our TV viewing area. Not quite as big of a gradient now, but the front is just clearing the Ohio River as of 7:10 p.m. We've dropped from the mid-60s all the way down to 43 up towards Bloomfield, Mesopotamia, but we're still hanging on to 55 down towards Calcutta and East Liverpool. We'll see a little bit of a temperature gradient on our Wednesday as well. Everyone's chilly-ish in the morning, but as we get into the afternoon, this same front that's rolling through right now will wiggle a little bit farther back to the north as kind of a mini warm front. And so I think there will be a range from mid-50s to mid-60s as far as afternoon highs on Wednesday. We'll be hard-pressed to see better than 54 to 55 in Greenville and Kinsman, and heading over towards Mesopotamia as well, Sandy Lake over in northeastern Mercer County. But once you get down towards Lisbon, East Palestine, and especially down towards Wellsville and East Liverpool, I think 60 to 65 will be pretty common in a lot of those places as we go into Wednesday afternoon. So here's a look at that front kind of wiggling back north. We'll start the day with some clouds. The clouds will thin as we go to the afternoon. Now, there might be a sprinkle or a shower Wednesday afternoon as nearby as the I-80 corridor, east of I-79 mostly, over towards DuBois, Clearfield, places like that along I-80. I don't think we see any showers here in our local TV viewing area. And then some really nice weather coming our way at the end of the week, Thursday and into Friday. This front kind of washes out, and as a warm front lifts through the Great Lakes, here we go. We are seeing that warmth unlocked on Friday. We'll have no trouble seeing the upper 60s and lower 70s with a gusty southerly wind Friday afternoon. Now, Friday morning, just a reminder, we do have a total lunar eclipse heading our way. The weather should be cooperative, mostly clear sky overhead. This is for the real hardcore people who want to stay up or get up early to watch this, but it'll be worth checking out if you don't mind being up in the middle of the night. Total eclipse from about 2:26 to 3:31 with maximum totality right at 2:58 a.m. But by the way, the next total lunar eclipse visible in the mainland United States will be in about a year, March 3rd of 2026. Then all eyes on the weather as we head towards the end of the week and the weekend. Very strong low pressure emerging across the plain states. The center of this low by Friday evening will be out in Nebraska and Kansas. A lot of isobars on our map here. This is a really wound up low pressure system for being in the middle of the country. A lot of times you see low pressure this deep closer to the Gulf Coast or along the eastern seaboard, something like that. It's a little unusual to have this deep of a low parked in the middle of the country. Now, this low will then scoot into the upper Midwest. A secondary low will start to form down across the south. This sequence of events will be important for our weather and the sequence that we see around here, starting very early Saturday morning and taking us through Saturday night and into Sunday. I think the first thing we'll see is along a warm front, probably a band of showers with some thunder, and this probably comes in towards daybreak on Saturday. Not expecting severe weather with this round, but the atmosphere will moisten up then as we go deeper into Saturday. I'm going to rewind here to Saturday, say early evening. At this point, we got a couple things going against us as far as severe weather goes. I don't think there's a great trigger overhead at this point. I think our cold front is out here. There may be, technically a warm front nearby, a fairly moist air mass, but there's just not much of a trigger. But what we do have going for us in terms of severe weather is a lot of wind shear, a whole lot of wind shear. Very strong winds aloft and a lot of changing of the wind direction with height. The instability is modest. So I think what we're looking at here is probably a low coverage, but perhaps high impact event for late in the day on Saturday. I don't think there'll be many storms around, but whatever does manage to get going could be strong or severe. I don't think that early morning round on Saturday has any severe weather with it, but late in the day on Saturday, all eyes will be to the sky. Now, the severe weather outlook put out by the Storm Prediction Center today for day 4 looks like this. Pretty good severe weather set up in places like Memphis and St. Louis on Friday. This is their kind of day 5 outlook, showing pretty good odds of severe weather in Birmingham, Alabama, eventually Atlanta, Georgia as well. And I think that's the right idea. And, they extend, the possibility of severe weather up into the Ohio River Valley and all the way up towards Lake Erie. I just think it's more and more questionable as you head north of I-70. I could see it, but I think it's going to be a pretty isolated situation. So we're going to be talking about this in a lot more detail as we get closer, come into range of the high-resolution computer modeling as we go towards the end of this week. And again, while the wind shear is very impressive aloft, the instability is modest. I'm going to rewind this to kind of when the instability probably peaks, and that's late afternoon, early evening on Saturday. It's not zero. The dew points are going to come up into the 50s. There's going to be some moisture in the air, and it's going to be warm. We'll get into the 70s on Saturday. With the lack of a trigger, though, I just think the coverage is going to be pretty darn spotty. And then I think it just turns to showers as we head through the overnight with perhaps some embedded thunder. And it's going to stay pretty soggy, we think, into at least the morning and midday on Sunday. A brief cool down for St. Patrick's Day on Monday, and then I think it warms up for another couple of days, Tuesday and into Wednesday of next week. So again, we'll talk more about the weekend setup in the next few editions of Weather for Weather Geeks. Thanks for watching on this Tuesday evening. Have a great rest of your night, and let's meet back here Wednesday evening.